It was a case that shocked the world, one of the most infamous child murder trials in British history. A neonatal nurse, Lucy Letby, found guilty of murdering 7 babies and attempting to kill 7 more. They called her Nice Lucy, the kind nurse who washed newborns, soothed worried parents, and smiled with quiet devotion. Lucy Letby was an only child, raised by doting parents in a quiet town. She studied nursing straight out of school, adopted cats, danced salsa on weekends. Her life seemed ordinary. She had no real relationships, no boyfriend, no children, no major accomplishments outside work. Friends described her as kind, quirky, even fun-loving. But behind her blank stare was a secret so chilling, it would shake the foundations of British healthcare. Before the headlines, before the verdicts, there were parents who saw something and weren't believed. Victoria Whitfield still remembers the chill down her spine.
I don't know why I went down. I just had a feeling that I needed to go down. I went down, I was walking down towards the NICU unit, and she was standing next to the cot.
There she saw Lucy Letby standing silently over her daughter's cot. No smile, no explanation, just a blank stare. Then Lucy walked away. It was just a blank look. Then she walked off. I didn't think anything of it until all hell broke loose. Moments later, alarms sounded. Nurses rushed in. Felicity's lungs had collapsed. A doctor told them to call family because she might not make it. Felicity survived, but her parents believe it's only because Vicky interrupted Letby mid-act. The trauma, though, was permanent. I had my heart ripped out that morning, had Vicky not gone down at that exact moment. Other parents weren't as lucky. One father remembers pure elation as he held his newborn twins, but within 5 days, one boy was dead. He walked into the NICU to find Lucy Letby next to his son's cot. Blood around the baby's mouth. Lucy was faffing about, doing nothing. She told me not to worry, that the registrar was coming, then told me to go back to the ward. Hours later, their son was gone. Letby offered to bathe him, dress him, hand him back to his devastated parents like a doll she'd finished playing with. What they didn't know then? Letby had injected air into the baby's bloodstream, one of her most common and deadly methods. She played God, deciding who lived, who died, and when. It's about ultimate control in an environment where control is rare. After each death, Letby sent text messages to colleagues. "We lost a little one overnight. Very unexpected. Very sad." She wrote sympathy cards to grieving parents, parents she had just destroyed. "There are no words to make this time easier. Thinking of you today and always." Lucy Letby, a killer grieving with the very families she hurt. Some say it was a twisted cover-up, others a game. One doctor called it what it was: psychopathic behavior, emotionless, strategic, and cold. As deaths mounted, concerned doctors tried to warn hospital management. Instead of praise, they were punished. We were told to apologize to Lucy, told to draw a line under it, told there would be consequences if we didn't. In a staggering twist, doctors were forced into mediation, forced to write apology letters, and Lucy Letby returned to work. Soon after, the deaths resumed. Why would someone do this? One disturbing theory: she wanted attention from a married doctor she was obsessed with. In her diary, she wrote of loneliness, despair, and a desire to be loved. She craved attention, and the trauma gave her exactly that. Doctors rushing in, hugs, tears, sympathy. She got to play the hero, or the grieving nurse. Either way, she was in control. Dr. Shu Lee, a respected neonatologist from Canada, recently stood before a press conference in London and dropped a bombshell. Dr. Lee's quote, "In summary then, ladies and gentlemen, we did not find murders." That's right. According to a panel of 14 international doctors, the evidence used to convict Lucy Letby was flawed. The babies, they say, may have died not by a nurse's hand, but from natural causes or substandard medical care. Dr. Lee and his panel pored over records from 17 infants linked to Letby's case. Their conclusion? No evidence of air embolism, the primary diagnosis used by the prosecution's key witness, Dr. Dewey Evans. The notion that these babies can be diagnosed with air embolism because they collapsed and had skin discoloration has no evidence, in fact. Evans had claimed that air was injected into the baby's bloodstreams or stomachs, causing fatal embolisms, a rare but deadly occurrence. But Dr. Lee says Evans misinterpreted his own academic work from 1989. It's the second time Letby's legal team has publicly challenged the credibility of Dr. Evans, and now her defense lawyer, Mark McDonald, is saying something big. There is now overwhelming evidence that Letby was wrongly convicted. It wasn't madness, it was manipulation. The breakthrough came when insulin was found in the blood of a baby boy. Someone had poisoned him. This was no medical error. This was murder, and it finally proved someone was deliberately killing babies. This was the moment we knew. This wasn't nature. This was a human hand, but now, nearly a year after her conviction, the case has taken a dramatic turn. Lucy Letby is currently serving multiple life sentences with no chance of parole. Her appeals so far have failed, but with this new report, McDonald has applied to the Criminal Case Review Commission, hoping for a fresh look at the case and maybe another shot at appeal. But not everyone's ready to revisit the nightmare. Senior prosecutor Nicola Wynne Williams stands by the original charges, one of which involved Letby allegedly removing a baby's breathing support tube, while a doctor stood by watching Letby then remove the breathing tube 2 more times in an attempt to cover her tracks. Dr. Ravi Jayaram, a pediatrician, told the jury he walked in and saw Letby just standing there, doing nothing, while the baby struggled for air. Letby, however, denied everything. "I am a great nurse. I'm not a killer. I'm coming back." And court agreed. She was cleared to return. Within days, more babies began collapsing again. She told the court she had no memory of the event. She has always insisted on her innocence. Dr. Ravi Jayaram, a senior pediatrician, had one goal: to protect the babies under his care. But when he voiced concerns about Letby, he and his colleagues were told to back off. "We were made to apologize to her, told that if we crossed the line again, there would be consequences, forced mediation, written apologies, even public shaming, all while Lucy Letby continued to work, uninterrupted. They chose to protect her, and babies kept dying." While a public inquiry into hospital failures is underway, separate from Letby's trial, it is not meant to re-examine the criminal case. Instead, it focuses on how management failed to protect the vulnerable and failed to listen to desperate parents. So what really happened inside the neonatal unit at Countess of Chester Hospital? Was it murder or medical failure? One thing is certain: the fight for the truth is far from over. Just when the world thought the Lucy Letby case had ended, the courtroom doors reopened, and with them came the cries of another family, another fragile newborn, and another disturbing accusation. On February 17, 2016, a very premature baby girl, known only as Child K, was placed in the care of Lucy Letby at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Tiny, vulnerable, and dependent on breathing support, she needed constant attention. But what happened in the early hours of that morning would come back to haunt the neonatal ward and ignite a second wave of outrage. Nearly a decade later, a new jury sat in silence as prosecutors described how Letby allegedly dislodged the baby's breathing tube, not once, but 3 times. The charge? Attempted murder. Letby was already serving life sentences for murdering 7 other babies. But this case, this baby, was different. A separate jury had failed to reach a verdict the first time. Now the prosecution was determined to try again. Senior prosecutor Nicola Wynne Williams told the court that Letby had deliberately removed Child K's breathing support. When a doctor walked in, he found Letby standing nearby, doing nothing, as the infant fought to breathe. She removed the breathing tube 2 more times over the next few hours in an attempt to cover her tracks and suggest that the first dislodgement was accidental. Letby, who took the stand once again, denied harming the child. She said she had no memory of interfering with the breathing tube, but this time the jury wasn't convinced. After just 3.5 hours of deliberations, the verdict was read: guilty. The parents of Child K gasped. They cried in disbelief, clinging to one another in court. But Lucy Letby? She didn't react. No tears, no expression, just silence. This new conviction only deepened the divide in public opinion. To some, it was justice further delivered. To others, it reinforced a dark question. Could so many people, so many jurors, be wrong? And while the legal team prepares new applications for appeal, the families of these babies, especially Child K's, must live with the echo of that one haunting night. Lucy Letby now faces a new layer of her sentence. But the real weight of the case, it's measured not in years behind bars, but in the lives that were forever changed. If you want to see more real stories that demand justice and truth, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss every view, like, and comment helps us tell the stories that matter most. Thank you for watching.